All right, y'all, welcome to Blacks with Power, the show for blacks in America who want to discover ways to harness their power in order to protect the gains won by the struggles of their ancestors and advance the cause of freedom for themselves, their family, and for others. I'm Father Jabril Valentine, and I will be your guide on this journey toward the America that can and should be. Thank you so much for listening. You can visit us online at blackswithpower.com or facebook.com/blackswithpower. Join in on the discussion. Also, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Play, on TuneIn. Listen to the previous episodes, and I would love to have your review. Then share your favorite episode with family, with friends, because all voices are needed. And so we have a private Facebook group as well set up for you all. You can go to blackswithpower.com/Facebook and get all the information for applying to join our Facebook community. There's a lot to discuss in this episode, and so I just want to get down to it. In this episode, I'm going to do things a little different. I haven't done this in a while where it's just me, myself, and I. As a matter of fact, since I've started videos, since we started producing on YouTube as well, I don't think that I've done a solo show. So it's my first time back in the saddle solo for a little while. You know that I've been doing a lot of interviews, but I wanted to take a moment just to define a couple terms for you. One term in specific, I'll do them, on an ongoing basis every now and again. Just pull aside and remind you of some of the foundational terms that we agree upon that when we use in this Blacks with Power community. And so, one thing, if you've downloaded the guide, many of you have, blackswithpower.com/reparations, on reparations, the foundation for Black Power. Many of you have downloaded the guide, and so you've heard me talk about it. If you're listening on your phone right now, you can text reparations to 44222. Text reparations to the number to the exchange 44222, and you'll be able to download that guide as well. But in talking about reparations, for those of you who haven't read the guide yet, when what we're talking about is, if Black lives are going to matter in America, then we must have reparations. In order, the premise is that for Black lives to matter, we've seen all of the evidence that has shown us and reminded us that Black lives do not matter. You see all of the recent police killings. You see the cycle of violence and the way that violence is addressed. You look at the opioid epidemic, and you see how opioids and addiction are being handled now when white communities are being ravaged versus how they were being handled in the 80s, when and the early 90s when it was Black communities en masse being ravaged, and even now how how the two disparities in how those same addictive habits, the same addictive behaviors are being treated. We see that no matter all of the celebrations that and commemorations for the civil rights legacy, 50 years of this, 50 years of that, whatever's happening, whatever luminary icon, so on and so forth. No matter all of the celebrations, no matter what we've accomplished, what we think we've accomplished, how far we've come, the education that we've had, the money that we've been able to amass, it's kind of like Jay-Z said in the story of OJ, still nigga, right? That the state of Black America is still one that is broken, right? That we still can have all of the evidence that says a police killing was not justified, but somehow, some way, they find a way to justify that murder. There is always something that reminds us that still nigga. And so the idea, brothers and sisters, is that we need a dramatically different approach, because the approach that we have been using clearly hasn't been working, right? If we can still be in these situations in 2017, right, then clearly what we have been doing has not been as effective as we thought it was, right? At least we can say that, right? And so what I say is that we need a dramatically different approach, and that approach that I talk about is reparations. And so when we talk about reparations, now we got to define that, like, what is reparations, right? And first of all, it's a far cry from just getting over it, or quote unquote forgiving what's been done. And yeah, I'm a priest, a clergy person, a minister of the gospel, poo-pooing our idea of forgiveness, what that means, and how that's given, how that's exacted. So it's not just forgive and forget, get over it, move on. It's been so long already. It's also not simply just a check. It's not it's something so easy as just the government writing a check. If it's kind of like that Dave Chappelle skit. I don't know if you all have ever seen it. You can Google it. Dave Chappelle show, reparations skit, and just this idea that essentially all we would do is give the money right back anyway, because we have no institutions that we support. All we would do is get a check, and if white people were as smart as we think they are, and give them as much credit as we give them, they give us our reparations right away, because they know that we're gonna get the money right back next week. So thanks be to God that they're not as quick with it as we like to give them credit for. But what it is something far deeper, something much more transformative when we're talking about reparations. But the easiest way for me to break it down from that nationalist perspective is repair nations, reparations. Kind of like that thing that KRS One did in Black Cop. Overseer, officer, overseer. Kind of like reparations, repair nations. Right? If we understand that root ideology and repair nations, that admitting that something has been broken and that it needs to be fixed. And if we're talking about people, if we're talking about psychology, if we're talking about those types of things, then en masse and group dynamics, um, I imagine that you would agree, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that in order for that type of fix that we're talking about as a people, it's best if we fix ourselves, right? Like, white people fixing us is not going to be the solution, right? That's what we ain't gonna have everybody ain't gonna be Michael Orr, and thanks be to God that the family took him in, but everybody ain't gonna be the blind side, right? Nor do we want everybody to be the blind side, where our only way to get over, our only way to overcome, is to have some benevolent white folks come and take care of us. That's not. I can't imagine that's the approach that we want. So reparations, repair nations. That idea that this is best done work that we do on ourselves, repairing ourselves. And so this idea of doing for self. If we look at Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If we think about that in terms of group dynamics, that in order to get to that society that we want to believe America already is, this assimilated, integrated, one society, right? In order to get there, in order to get to that state of interdependence, that space of equals working together, we have to break free. We have to of dependence and become independent, right? So we as a people have to be able to stand on our own 2 feet as a people, as black people, not needing the benevolence of white folks, not even needing the benevolence of the government, to secure our position as a human people. So in order for us to become, to move from being dependent, which is what we were as slaves, right? When our ancestors were enslaved, whether that be in the Caribbean, whether that be under colonialism in Africa, whether that be in Latin America, whether that be here in America, when our ancestors were in chains, we were dependent. It might have been a meager subsistence, right? Like, it wasn't like the best food, it wasn't the best clothes, it damn sure wasn't the best none of it was ideal, none of it was good. And I guess there were moments that were quote unquote goodish, right? But for all intents and purposes, as crappy as it was, we still were in a dependent state, right? So to move from dependent to this integrated society, which one would say is interdependent, right? Even Stephen Covey on human relations, one of the expert gurus, Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You must go from dependence to independence before you can get to interdependence, right? And so this idea of reparations being for us to fix ourselves so that we as ourselves can be independent people, because only as an independent people can we ultimately become an interdependent people, can we ultimately have an integrated, assimilated America, right? And so when we attain that level, that goal level being equal standing, equal stature in society, where we all have this A branded on our chest for America, right? Where my A is just as good as your A, and I don't have to prove that to you. You know it because my A drops on the table with a thud, right? When my A drops on the table like the black card, like Jay said, black card go hard when I'm shopping. When my America flag drops as hard on that table, and you have no choice but to respect my position, my stature, my standing as a people in this society. Then we'll be able to make Black Lives Matter in this country. Then we'd be able to get some sort of resolution when law-abiding citizens are shot down in the street and police are able to walk away saying that they felt justified because they were afraid for their life somehow, some way, right? Um, when we can walk into those rooms or halls of power, and we have attained a status, have attained a stature in this country that is undeniable, that we did not get there because of the benevolence of white folks, that we are standing there on our own. Then when we make demands on the system to treat us fairly, to treat us equally, then those demands will be better heard. I talk more about it in the guide Reparations, the Foundations for Black Power. And again, you can text reparations to 44222 44222. Text reparations and be able to download the guide and understand more of what it means. How do we embrace that? What are the benefits of embracing that? What does it mean to embrace that? And what it's going to take to embrace that and to live that out as a part of the solutions. And I'll unpack those in more of these, I guess, like teach-ins that we'll call them, on the ideology behind Blacks with Power. But so that as we bring in discussions from other experts, from other leaders, from other gurus, from other people who have been there, done that, you can understand the framework from which we are and through which we are approaching this idea of Black empowerment and Black power, and what I'm looking for from you as members of the Black with Power family. This is all about learning how to harness the power that you have, that is innate in you, and learning to leverage that power that in ways that it is effective for us as a people, as a cohesion. And so now I want to hear from you. I want to know, what do you think about the idea of reparations, especially about the idea of reparations being repair nations, and whether or not nations are best served, nations of people, groupings of people are best served if they are repairing themselves, or is empowerment found when they repair each other? What do you think about that dichotomy, that divide between empowerment being self-empowerment or empowerment being done by a force outside of yourself? I want to hear from you, so be sure to like the Facebook page, facebook.com/blackswithpower. Write us a review on iTunes if you like the show. I would very much appreciate you writing a review. Again, if you go to blackswithpower.com, click on any of the episodes, you can find a button right there to make it easy for you to write a review. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn. Listen to us on YouTube as well. A charge to keep we have, brothers and sisters: a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky. We have come a long way. Yes, indeed. We as a people have accomplished a great deal. But we ain't there yet. So let us march on till victory is won. Live with power.